Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Lou Pizzatola. Thank you for joining us. On the morning of November 3rd, millions of Americans woke up to find that the man they voted for was elected president. Millions of other Americans almost in equal numbers, woke up to a great disappointment. For those Americans, there was at least one saving grace. The man who had been the dynamic voice of the Democratic Convention, its keynote speaker, the man who spoke of big dreams in his own life and big dreams for his country, had actually been elected senator from Illinois. And that man is our guest tonight, Barack Obama. In his convention speech, our guest spoke of his own father, a foreign student born and raised in a village in Kenya. He spoke of his grandfather, a domestic servant, and he spoke of the journey he has taken in his own life. That story, which brings him here tonight, is told more fully in his memoir called Dreams from My Father. Now, there is much talk about what our guest will be doing in the year 2008, 2012 and beyond. And it would certainly give me a great deal of pleasure to say that I was introducing the next President of the United States. And it would give you a lot of pleasure as well, I'm sure. But what millions who woke up in disappointment on November 3rd might be looking to is what our guest will be doing in the immediate future. Based on the journey and the stands he has taken, many Americans should rejoice over the voice they will have in their government. A voice that speaks for expanding opportunities and civil liberties, a voice that speaks to the promise that we will eventually, as he puts it, come out of the long political darkness. Please join me in welcoming the man behind that voice, Barack Obama.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Oh, that's not necessary. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Well, you know I made this speech about there are no red states and blue states, but I suspect this state's kind of blue. Just looking at the crowd out here tonight. What a magnificent turnout. I'm so grateful to all of you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to travel here, especially in New York traffic, which I just braved. I was mentioning that when the book that we're going to be discussing tonight first came out, which was in 1995-96, I had a much smaller reception, but this bookstore, which had just opened, in fact, was one of the stops that we made, and it's wonderful to be back close to 10 years later and to see how things have grown. So I'm very grateful to all of you for being here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just spend a few minutes talking a little bit about my perspective as it's expressed not only in the book but also in the campaign, and how those two things connect, and then we're going to open it up for some questions before we start to do a book signing. I just had an appearance on Charlie Rose, and he was asking me, how does the book connect with your politics? And it's very clear to me that there's a direct line between the subject matter that's contained in Dreams from My Father and the type of politics that I aspire to. Because essentially what this story is about is a boy born to a father from Kenya and a mother from Kansas in Hawaii with an unusual name, who traveled to Indonesia, came back, found himself in Chicago, working in some of the lowest income neighborhoods in the country, and then traveled back to Africa, and somehow was able to weave together a workable meaning for his life as an African American, as an American, and as somebody who's part of the broader human family. And that was not an easy task. It wasn't an easy task, not because I did not have some enormous love from my family. I did. It wasn't because I didn't have people helping me every step of the way. I had that help. But it was because I found myself born astride a nation and a world that is so often divided. Divided along lines of race, divided along lines of class, divided along lines of religion. And so we have this enormous tragic history that all of us confront from whatever our backgrounds are, whether we're white, black, Hispanic, Asian, whether we're Muslim, Jew, or Christian. The notion that, in fact, in the words of a great writer who happened to win a Nobel Prize, William Faulkner, he said, "The past is never dead and buried, it isn't even past." And I think that all of us are confronting constantly our history. We're confronting the history and stain of slavery in this country. We're confronting the history and problems that arose as a consequence of colonialism. We're confronting those scars of violence and oppression and struggle and difficulty and hope, not only on the larger canvas of history, but also within our own families. And for me, it was not entirely obvious how, in fact, I was going to be able to integrate and pull together all those different strands in my life. So part of my challenge growing up was to figure out how do I function as someone who is black but also has white blood in me? How do I function as somebody who is American and takes pride and understands the enormous blessings that come with being an American, but is also able to recognize that I'm part of something larger than just a nation state? How do I embrace my faith now as a Christian, also recognizing that I have people within my own family who have a different faith, and how do I describe the fact that we all have different paths ultimately to a same source, a same place that we come from and to which ultimately we will all end up. How do we do that? What kind of language do we come up with? How do we expand a sense of empathy and allow each and every one of us to be able to stand in somebody else's shoes and see the world through their eyes, and as a consequence see ourselves and other people? Because it strikes me that that's the only way that we're going to survive as a planet. And so that was, in very abstract terms, what the theme of this book is about. Now, in much more concrete and prosaic terms, what this book is about is a boy who's growing up and doesn't have a father around.